seventh law of anxiety. You must disrupt and maintain an ongoing disruption for any that seek to challenge the laws of anxiety. Now this is entirely about the political correctness of anxiety. Anxiety is a political entity because it governs language and thought, and because it's a political entity there is the political correctness of anxiety. And all the times you've heard the word political correctness, okay, you're talking about there the political correctness of anxiety. The political correctness according to anxiety. Because you've got the optimum outcome anxiety wants. And so the political correctness of anxiety is about things that are correct according to the aspirations of anxiety, right? Seventh law of anxiety, you must disrupt and maintain an ongoing disruption to they that seek to challenge the laws of anxiety. Okay, and again, it's an extrapolation out of the sixth law, which is it's a party to the fifth law, and it's actually that they all work together. And how all this works together, this 8 laws of anxiety algorithm, this is all a big indication of the character of consciousness. Because it's only because of the cognitive power of consciousness that anxiety is able to do this. Okay, in the instance of anxiety having hijacked consciousness, it takes consciousness from its natural state, which is wide open, endless, limitless expanse of the universe, and puts it in this minute, artificial, manufactured, tiny little space. And in that space, I'm talking about is, it's a case of, it's not the elephant in the living room, it's that we are living inside the elephant. And so the seventh law of anxiety, you must disrupt and maintain an ongoing disruption to they that seek to challenge the laws of anxiety. How does this influence language? Okay, well, it's party to the other ones, and it has equal potency in conventional wisdom. Okay, it's equally material to the aspirations of anxiety as any of these laws are when you consider the laws individually, as an individual thing, how it works in the language, how it works in party to the other laws. And so this is, how is this evidenced? See, this is actually about the political correctness of anxiety. So this isn't actually, this is the consequence. This is the aspired to consequence of the language, which has been configured and formatted by the previous laws. And so here we get the thing. So this is why, this is, I mean, a very easy way, a very easy example to give to explain this is actually how the government have treated the populations in the West. By doing things that are, you know, obviously stupid according to how the community functions, because we aren't really about getting rich, right? We are about community and family, and we know that, we instinctively know that history is endless and we have to prepare the way for the next generation. So that's the thing that we do, right? And so how does this manifest as a consequence of the language that is used, and that this is the outcome? This is the outcome. Well, you've got all this government to the people, so it materializes very strongly as projections from the financial services industry. Okay, banking system. They're not the banking system. Okay, the savings part of it, the non-commercial part of it, that people use to save money, that is not the financial services industry. The financial services industry is about loans and mortgages and the greater, the wider, the extrapolated out experience of that, which is currency trading, and then commodities and all that kind of thing. And so you've heard many times that confidence can actually rock the stock market, bring it down, you know. A confidence thing can make it drop, right? It's because they're using the belief that anxiety is wisdom and virtuous to philosophically underwrite the whole practice of what they're doing, right? And confidence is something that you know, anxiety needs people to have confidence in it for it to be the moral authority, right? So you know, they project downwards, and they've got all these things. They bring these questions like the education system, crime, the health system, military conflict, overseas news, you know, drugs, you know, working environment, wages and conditions, labour situation, the labour market situation, what else? Food, right? There's like all sorts of reports of, oh, this is really bad for you, and you know, there's all this stuff injected into the public sphere about food and our consumable things, all the things we consume. And there's all this stuff going on, like the Y2K thing. Remember that? They thought all the computers in the world wouldn't be able to understand the number 2000, and they thought all the computers would actually self-destruct because they couldn't understand, they couldn't cope with the fact it was 2000, and it was like, that was just projecting an irrational fear into the public. And so the seventh law of anxiety is you must disrupt and maintain an ongoing disruption to they that seek to challenge the laws of anxiety. So specifically, the people of the country, in the West anyway, and generally everywhere really, we generally project consciousness. Collectively we get together and we say this is needing to be fixed up, you know, and then they will counter that, they will push back against that by anxieties, and they preempt us all the time. So what have I got in my memory about that? Housing shortages. Okay, housing shortages, medical drugs cost, okay, electricity cost, and all this stuff. And it was in New Zealand, right? Our electricity was built and paid for by the public, and now we've got to buy electricity off our own system. And so this is the thing of it. The government wants to appear the authority, and so it makes us buy electricity from them, where they would get exactly the same result, according to them, if we had free electricity, because we'd only be spending that money anyway, right? And it could change the dynamic of society, the fabric of society, because that would lead to a more freer mind, and then the creative spirit would get a lot more attention, and then it would, you know. And so by this way they you know, seek to disrupt and maintain an ongoing disruption to the public, right? And you know, just last night I watched the news, and literally there was only about 6 minutes of the news segment, which is 40 minutes, that was actually about New Zealand. Every other story on the night news, 6 o'clock news, was about the US or England. And so by these means they inject things into the collective consciousness here that are irrelevant to us, but it's implied that they're really important. Okay, and so all I can say is that really they want New Zealanders to believe that we don't have a country, actually. Now that's really the impression I'm getting from how the amount of New Zealand news on our news and the amount of foreign news on our news, right? And so yeah, so that's how it's done. But you know, that's what the government do. And then we've got what have we got? I mean, they like to do that. So they've really altered. They've taken control of the music. Okay, back in the late 90s, a whole lot of things happened in the late 90s, like there was all sorts of live music venues in one of the cities here. All sorts of live music venues were seemingly shut down overnight, where there was live acts, bands, you know, playing. Then it was all this DJ stuff came out, right? And then there's sports promoted very highly. Sports promoted very highly in the news, in the media. They put a great deal of importance on it, right? Because you can see the radio news, right? The radio news is super important because more people listen to the radio than watch television. Okay, they spend more time listening to the radio than watching television because they're in their cars, they're at work, you know, la-di-da. And so they tick this stuff off every 30 minutes, the news report and the sports report. And so right now I know that, you know, they're getting us to focus on things that are not actually material to the housework issues that we have, which is our community, right? The mental health, you know, the crime thing, you know, literally the cost of living, and you know, and so what they've done is there's been a few instances where water supplies have become corrupted with some kind of bacteria, and recently they've put chlorine in our water supply to mitigate the risk of the bacteria. So there isn't actually bacteria in the water, but because of the risk that it might be, you know, they've put the stuff in it to stop that. And so it's overdone, you know, and so that's kind of fraudulent. And it's like they would say they're all about denouncing conspiracy theories, but creating a safety policy around something that might happen, that is virtually a conspiracy theory, eh? Really, you know, that's what anxiety does. Anxiety is just a conspiracy theorist, right? It's a conspiracy theorist with control of your feelings. Okay, and so yeah, they do that, and then what else they do? Oh, the threat of nuclear war. The threat of nuclear war. Yeah, you know, Russia's going to attack. Russia all day, and you know, so it's overtly creating fear in the public sphere. Is the 7th law of anxiety, right? If you believe that anxiety is wisdom and virtuous, you must disrupt and maintain an ongoing disruption to they that seek to challenge the laws of anxiety. Okay, which is everyone, you know, because we all step forward with courage in the 99%, and so this is the situation with that. And so, and this is all that, you know, taking the 7th law into the micro environment, the personal sphere, at home, in the family, in a group of friends, right, on the street, right. And so these people that go around attacking people for no reason, like violent assaults and that, okay, what they're doing, what that is that's showing their friends how important it is to maintain an ongoing disruption to seek to challenge the laws of anxiety, because they're role playing, right? They're role playing. They're actually, what they're doing, you get school bullies and these people that do assaults and that. What they're actually doing is they've grown up as kids, learning this thing, seeing it happen in front of their eyes all the day on a daily basis, really regularly. And what they're doing, the school bully thing, is them role playing their parent. They're role playing it, right? And so that's what I think about that. The thing of the bullying is they're role playing the behaviour of their parent so they can get good at it. Because they know the 6th law is you must always express loyalty to the laws of anxiety, and they know you must, the 5th law of anxiety, you must acquiesce to they that are expressing the most anxiety. And they know that's super important, man. You know, because you get in so much trouble if you don't, you know, toe the line of the anxiety, you know. And so in that instance of the abuse of, you know, household where there's anxiety sufferers and they're getting angry a lot and having arguments a lot, you know, that's not the big problem with that. See, a child can compartmentalise two people arguing because it's a separate thing, but it's how the communication between the adult and the child gets loaded with these subtle reminders. Keeping in mind, consciousness can perceive extremely detailed nuances, and anxiety has the cognitive power, has hijacked the cognitive power of consciousness, right? So the parent can then load, or not just the parent, it's one versus the other. They can add to it very subtle, really skillfully, high quality reminders of the importance of how anxiety is the deity. Okay, and so this is why anxiety's turned into a deity, because the political correctness of anxiety is an instinctively intuitive thing, and anxiety has virtually become a deity to people, and actually largely to the Western world. See, the 99% in the Western world are virtually passengers and spectators to the people that have control of social policy and who have control of the big features of the economy, right? The banks and government and the international finance industry, right? And so we represent that side of the relationship. We represent the consciousness side, and because this feeling of hunger, of not having enough money, right? Everyone knows what that feels like. They say that the money thing is the #1 cause of divorce, and so this is what the relationship is between the government and the people. It's like one parent is actually freaking out they haven't got enough money, when the other side of the parent, all they do is work. Okay, and so this is kind of replicated the micro situation in the macro, and you'll find that when you look at it, you'll see that more and more easily, that these behaviors of this relationship as it exists in the macro, which is government and the geopolitical level, they're exact copies of what happens in the micro between people. They're exact copies. And it's about the two and how the two, who is in relation to who, and the nature of that relationship, and the means that that each have at their disposal, which goes to that does go into their political standing in that micro relationship, right? And so that's something I've noticed, because I mean, you only have to look at in the UN Security Council. You just YouTube up UN Security Council Syria, and you'll see the exchanges between the Russian representative and the US representative, right? And you tell me who's on each side, because I know who's on whose side, and I mean, and this is why it's been said that this thing of anxiety's hijacked the government, and that's why the foreign policy of the US is according to Jewish values, and the actual foreign policy of the people of the US is to have a barbecue. You know, they've got no issue with other countries, man, and it's because the American way is to express consciousness. So that's why they've had masses of creativity, and why they're actually really wealthy. They're not really wealthy because of the resources. They're wealthy because of their, you know, because consciousness is compelled to be creative. And so that is why America has become wealthy. And so in all the West countries, the reason that we're wealthier than everyone else is because we value consciousness, and we want to express consciousness. And so Russia really is the same now, and China as well. China is not a communist country, and neither is Russia, because both countries are heavily, they are actually capitalist societies. And you know what? China has always been a capitalist country. That's the fact, man. That's the only thing that they've been doing for thousands of years. Work, small business, family, you know, this is the only thing they've actually ever been doing. And so, you know, in all the streets of Russia, mate, it's the same. It's just people trying to make a living, trying to have enough to eat. But they had, you know, both countries had inflicted on them a massive anxiety attack, which is communism. And if you look at the 8 laws, this is why that happened. This is how a few little people that seemingly had more resources than them, which made it appear like they had more consciousness, because the function of money is the great imposter of the function of consciousness. And they came along and talked everyone into the 8 laws. You know, showed them evidence why they must acquiesce to they that are expressing the most anxiety. You know, like the Russian Revolution I mentioned in the other video there. They came along and told all the peasants, all the workers, that they had the most anxieties and they should overthrow the leaders of their businesses and communities. And they had every right to, because they had the most anxiety. And so once that was achieved, then the government showed the people that the government's got the most anxiety, and it flipped it around. And this is all according to the function, and you know, this is all according to the event of anxiety in the mind, right? So there's your 7th law. There's your 7th law, man. And number 8 next.